Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I would recommend Angel Care to anybody. They have really helped me regain my strength.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
I couldn't have survived this without Angels Care.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at McCartney Hall, third floor on the campus of Fort Hays State University with Dr. Wally Guyot, Professor of Management and Marketing at Fort Hays State, and Dr. Robert Meier, who is a Professor of Informatics at Fort Hays State University. And we're talking about a recent research article which was published last spring about internet addiction. First, if we could, Dr. Guyot, the Management and Marketing Department at Fort Hays State. Tell us about it and who it serves and what it does.
All right, the Management and Marketing Department is made up of several different areas. Management and marketing, of course, human resource management, tourism and hospitality management, and then business education, which includes business teacher licensure, corporate communication, and training and development.
This really prepares students for future careers in really active groups, companies, and organizations right now, Dr. Guy.
Well, definitely. The business degree is one of the most popular in the country anyway. We got a lot of businesses out there, and our students have many good opportunities, and they're able to get good jobs.
Dr. Robert Meier is Professor of Informatics at Fort Hays State. Informatics, Bob, what is that?
It's high technology. We have quite an assortment of technological majors. I'll start here. We have information assurance, sometimes known as cybersecurity. We have management information systems, media studies, networking, and web design. I think I got all of them. And part of these get a Bachelor of Science degree, and the Management Information Systems major, those students get a Bachelor of Business Administration degree.
And once again, preparing students for interesting and involving careers in changing technology throughout the world, basically.
And the placement is quite good with all these majors. The career opportunities are fine. We have recruiters that recruit regularly, and our students are doing well in the marketplace and in their career progression. They're advancing. They're doing fine.
Let's talk about this article specifically, if we could, Dr. Guyot. How did the idea for the article originate?
Well, actually, since we're dealing with the technology area, and since Bob's in the MIS area and I work with business communication, the issue of technology and use of the internet is something that we know that our students are using. And then we also had an individual, actually from another country, from India, had run across some information on a survey-type instrument relating to internet addiction. And we've worked with this individual before, and we worked on a project with him. That is a different manuscript, but we are doing this one in the United States.
And what would you add, Dr. Meier?
I guess I'd add that you had asked earlier about co-authoring. So this other professor from India is one of the co-authors, and then we have two other co-authors on this project. So there's a total of 5 authors on this particular paper.
And these professors are at different locations. The one you mentioned is a professor in India at a university?
Yes, he's in India, and we have one in the state of Texas and another in the state of Virginia.
And we'll get more into the co-authoring here in just a few minutes. Dr. Guyot, how about in development from idea to publishing? How long was this process of the research?
That's an interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I think a lot of people think the research can be started and brought to fruition in a very short period of time. But I think this particular project was pretty close to 2 years from the beginning to when it was accepted for publication.
It's rather amazing that time frame is rather extensive. I think, as Dr. Guyot said, Bob, that many of us would think that these would be completed in a hurry, but it is an extensive project, isn't it?
It's very extensive, and I think his estimate is just about right. From start to finish, about 2 years. There's an awfully lot of work goes on behind the scenes that people may not be aware of.
All right, Dr. Guyot, what did you learn from the article? What should we learn from the article?
Well, I think we already had an idea that internet addiction is an issue for people, but we wanted to pursue it to see what we could find out more specifically. I think Dr. Meier has some of the specific research questions that we dealt with and found answers for, hopefully.
Dr. Meier, what did you find out from this, and who was involved in the addiction, male, female, that type thing? Give us some details and what you found.
How about if I read part of the abstract to you? Okay, in this study, there were 216 male and female community college students that participated, and they filled out a questionnaire based on a Dr. Kimberly Young's internet addiction test. And the responses, besides those questions, included the time they spent, at an interval of time they spent on the internet. And then we did quite a lot of statistical work with the data. We had freshmen and sophomores and other students that participated. And we did what was called a two-way analysis of variance on this thing with a 2x5 factorial design. So it's a lot of fancy sounding terms.
Put that in layman's terms for me, would you?
We're able to test for what they call main effects and also two-way interaction effects. And we compared gender to time spent online. And then we did something that's called factor analysis. And there were 20 questions on this survey instrument. And the factor analysis reduced the number of factors down, and we ended up with 3 different factors on this. And they have some creative names over here for the factors. One factor was named E-binge addict. One we named E-social recluses. And the third one we named E-procrastinator. So they sound pretty fancy, but we needed some way when we do that factor analysis to attach names to the factors. So
we also
the factors.
Yeah, we also get some common terms like procrastinator and social addiction and that type.
So you get an idea after they filled out the questionnaire and we reduced the factors down. That pretty much, the naming we hoped helped explain it.
And tell me, if you would, about, once again, the age group of the people that were surveyed in this, Dr. Meier?
They would be in the 18 to probably 22 age range on here, 216 students.
All right. And male or female tended toward being more addicted to internet usage?
That's a good question. One of the questions was, is internet addictive behavior dependent on a student's gender? And the answers were yes and no. And that depended upon the factor we talked about. So internet addiction in this particular case was dependent on the gender for the E-social recluse, but not for binge addict or E-procrastinator. It turned out that the female community college students in this particular study were more prone to be E-social recluses than the male counterparts.
An interesting point related to that, there are a number of studies that seem to indicate that the male is the one that has a greater tendency to be addicted, and the female lesser. So we found, I guess, what you might say, a contradiction, but that's what research does.
Somewhat of a surprise then, perhaps, to most of us, I think, Dr. Guy.
Yes, we, based upon the literature review that we had done, we just assumed that it would probably be males. But in this particular case, for this particular factor, it turned out to be females.
And there's a different interaction between the recluse and the binge and the other category that was mentioned. There's a difference perhaps in male and female approaches to those or results from those?
Yes, there would be. The recluse area, basically that included several different questions from the survey that basically indicated that the people that were recluses preferred to spend more time on the internet as opposed to face-to-face interaction. They may be interacting with people on the internet, but they felt more comfortable doing that than carrying on face-to-face conversations with people.
Outside of, and we've heard that before, I think, of many parents being concerned about that particular issue itself, Dr. Guy.
That's correct. And, of course, with the technology that we have today, some of these youngsters start with technology that didn't even exist when we were that age. But I think it is a concern for the parents because they could become addicted, and they could actually get to the point where they maybe didn't socialize as much with their friends.
Or communicate as much, perhaps, not only with friends, but with peers and parents.
That's correct.
Dr. Meier, we've seen again how technology usage, I just saw an article the other day about technology usage starting at the very early ages, pre-kindergarten even, with toddlers on pads and such as a learning tool. Is there any, if you were kind of guessing, would there be any potential for increased addiction starting at that younger age than we would normally think of for children?
I would say that's another research project.
Sounds like it. Let's talk about some of the conclusions that you would draw then. Dr. Guyot, you first on this.
Well, I think from an educational standpoint, I think we need to be vigilant. I think we need to make sure that in the appropriate classes that we are talking about these issues so that more people are aware of it. I think it's possible that some of our students may not even be aware that maybe they are moving in the direction of spending more time than they should be.
And some of the results of spending more time socially, if you will.
That's correct, and that would have an effect on interpersonal communication, and that is something that's important in the business world.
And Dr. Meier, what would you add to that as it relates to perhaps the future, as Dr. Guyot said, about contacts in business and such?
Actually, what I think I would respond by saying that more studies need to be done. This is one study that we did, and we really can't generalize beyond the particular population that we surveyed. So I would say, answer you, we need to do more studies.
This one is a good starting point then.
Good starting point. Actually, we'd call this one a pilot study.
New project is underway now, Dr. Guyot. Tell us about it.
Well, one of the things that we hear students have such high expenses with textbooks, so we did a survey where we were gathering information, and basically we were having students respond to questions: what kind of teaching materials do they prefer? Do they want the traditional hard copy textbook? Do they like the electronic textbooks that are now available? And then there's another area, open education resources, which basically means that the materials would be available to the students at minimal or no cost.
Wow, that's going to be an exciting results on that survey, too. Any timeline on potential for completion of that at this point?
I think I'm not sure we can get it done this semester, but early next semester we want to have it submitted for publication.
Well, Jeff and I will invite ourselves back then to get some results on that. Dr. Meier, what would you add to this new research project?
We'd be happy to speak with you again after we've got it submitted for publication.
Dr. Wally Guyot, Professor of Management and Marketing at Fort Hays State University, and Dr. Robert Meier, Professor of Informatics at Fort Hays State University, our Community Connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
There's not any words to describe their kindness.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
They saved my life.